When I was in the School for the Arts in Baltimore, all they told me was there's no work for black actors. I didn't have a script for Juice, ever. Through the whole film, I didn't have a script. I read cold turkey, walked in there, picked up the sides, and
Hollywood is a dream factory where careers are made overnight and destroyed just as quickly. Well, for these black actors, the spotlight once shined bright awards, blockbuster films, hit TV shows. But a mix of personal demons, controversies, and behind-the-scenes clashes has left them struggling to find work. Today, we're counting down 15 black actors Hollywood has turned its back on. 1. Terrence Howard.
But I spent 37 years pretending to be people so that people can pretend to watch and enjoy what I'm doing when I've made some discoveries in my own personal life with the science that, Pythagoras was searching.
Terrence Howard was once at the very peak of Hollywood. His raw and magnetic performance in Hustle and Flow even earned him an Academy Award nomination. And for a time, it looked like he was destined for long-lasting stardom. Audiences also remember him for his roles in Crash, and, of course, the very first Iron Man, where he played James Rhodes before Don Cheadle replaced him in the sequels. So, how did things fall apart? A mix of personal controversies and career clashes dimmed his shine. Over the years, Howard's private life made more headlines than his acting. He went through multiple public disputes with ex-wives, many of which included allegations of domestic abuse. In interviews, he admitted to some of the troubling behavior, and that admission made Hollywood extremely wary of keeping him in leading roles. Then came the infamous Iron Man dispute. Howard claimed Marvel cut his salary drastically for the second film, and when he refused, the studio recast his role. After that, whispers started spreading that he was difficult on set, a reputation that stuck. On top of that, he launched lawsuits against Fox, the network behind Empire, and even his own talent agency, accusing them of cheating him out of money. Add in tax troubles and accusations of unpaid debts, and it painted a picture that studios didn't want to deal with. Howard himself has admitted that all of this closed doors for him. Instead of blockbuster films, he's turned to smaller projects and stage performances. It's a steep drop for someone who once seemed unstoppable. Monique.
I'm unapologetic and I'm unwavering about it. Because when I see this woman, Oprah Winfrey, how do you as a black woman watch another black woman be thrown under the bus based off of a lie? What I won't do is be quiet. I won't go away. I won't.
Monique is one of those rare artists who can make you laugh until your sides hurt, then completely floor you with a powerhouse dramatic performance. Her role in Precious back in 2009 proved that, winning her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. For most people, an Oscar is a golden ticket to endless opportunities. But for Monique, it was the start of a long uphill battle with Hollywood. After her win, Monique chose not to campaign overseas for Precious at festivals like Cannes. She explained that she wasn't being paid to do additional promotion and didn't feel she should work for free. That decision, however, rubbed some of Hollywood's most influential figures the wrong way. Soon after, she claimed she was essentially blacklisted. She openly called out Lee Daniels, Oprah Winfrey, and Tyler Perry for turning away from her, saying her refusal to play the game cost her future roles. But Monique didn't stay silent. She started speaking out about the pay gap and unfair treatment of black women in entertainment. In 2019, she filed a high-profile lawsuit against Netflix, arguing they offered her a shockingly low amount for a comedy special compared to white or male comedians. The suit sparked national conversations about bias in the industry. Eventually, she and Netflix reached a private settlement, but the battle left scars. 3. Jaleel White.
So it's kind of interesting in how we look at ourselves, to be quite honest, even as black folks. And somehow I became a symbol for black male nerd culture.
Jaleel White will forever be tied to one character, the quirky, suspender-wearing Steve Urkel from Family Matters. His high-pitched voice, awkward charm, and catchphrase, "Did I do that?" turned him into a pop culture phenomenon. Urkel became so popular that the character overshadowed the rest of the show and, unfortunately, White's entire career. When Family Matters wrapped, Jaleel faced the classic trap of typecasting. Audiences couldn't separate him from the nerdy neighbor they grew up with. Casting directors struggled to imagine him in anything different, no matter how talented he was. Even Jaleel admitted that the role left him with physical pain from years of changing his voice and posture to play Urkel. What should have been a springboard turned into a box that kept him stuck. Still, White never gave up on his craft. He pivoted into voice work, becoming the very first actor to bring Sonic the Hedgehog to life in animation. Over the years, he took on roles in shows like Grown Ups, Me, Myself, and I, The After Party, and even joined the Star Wars universe in Skeleton Crew. On the film side, he appeared in projects like Dreamgirls and Hustle, proving he could play more than one note. More recently, Jaleel reinvented himself again, this time as a game show host on Flipside. The move reminded fans that he's versatile, charismatic, and still belongs in the spotlight. Yet, no matter what he does, the shadow of Steve Urkel lingers. For some, he will always be that nerdy kid next door. 4. Stacey Dash.
Yes.
How about Hollywood? Did Hollywood turn on you?
Yes.
They turn on you.
Oh, yeah. I've been blacklisted.
And how do you know that for sure?
I've had agencies actually say they won't represent me because I do not stand for their beliefs.
Stacey Dash first won over audiences with her role as Dion in the 1995 teen classic Clueless. She played the stylish, sharp, and confident best friend with such flair that fans expected her career to explode alongside her co-stars. For a while, she landed a few projects here and there, but she never quite reached the same level of fame. Then things took a sharp turn when Stacey shifted into political commentary. In 2014, she became a regular contributor on Fox News, where she voiced very strong and often divisive opinions. She criticized everything from Black History Month to President Obama, even calling out cultural icons like Beyoncé. Her statements sparked outrage in both liberal circles and among Black audiences who once considered her a cultural favorite. The controversy grew when she was suspended by Fox after making inflammatory remarks about Obama's stance on terrorism. By 2016, her contract wasn't renewed, and her presence in Hollywood had all but faded. Studios and directors grew hesitant to attach her to projects, fearing the backlash that came with her outspoken persona. In later years, Stacey admitted she regretted some of the choices she made, saying she leaned into playing a role as the angry conservative Black woman. She's since tried to soften her image and reconnect with fans, but rebuilding a Hollywood career is far harder once your name becomes tied to controversy. Despite undeniable talent and charisma, the industry has largely moved on. Stacey Dash's story is a reminder that Hollywood doesn't always forgive, especially when politics and public opinion collide with stardom. 5. Orlando Brown.
In the industry,
Okay.
you know, when you walk around with the fake face and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna open up. It's like this is not. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that since World War I,
Orlando Brown was once one of Disney Channel's brightest young stars. Fans loved him as Eddie Thomas, Raven's hilarious best friend on That's So Raven. With sharp comedic timing, natural energy, and even musical talent, it seemed like he was destined for a long, successful career in Hollywood. But after the show ended in 2007, his life began spiraling in a direction no one expected. Instead of scoring more big roles, Orlando's name started popping up in headlines for all the wrong reasons. He faced multiple arrests over the years. Charges included drug possession, DUI, domestic disputes, and even burglary. Many of these incidents were tied to his long battle with addiction. He's openly admitted to struggling with substance abuse, and at times, it seemed like that struggle overshadowed everything else he had to offer as an entertainer. Hollywood has little patience for instability, especially when it comes to actors who might be seen as unreliable. Studios and producers slowly distanced themselves, and the promising star who once lit up Disney Channel was suddenly sidelined. To his credit, Orlando has tried to turn things around. He's appeared in smaller projects and has spoken in interviews about working toward sobriety and getting his life back on track. Still, the shadow of his past troubles makes the industry hesitant to welcome him back into the mainstream spotlight. What makes his story especially tough is that Orlando wasn't just an actor. He could sing, rap, and command a room with his comedy. The talent was always there, but the personal battles pulled focus, leaving a career that could have soared stuck in the background. 6. Wesley Snipes.
Most of the representation I had at the time were very against me doing the Blade. They considered me a classical actor and a professionally trained actor, and it was beneath the skill.
Wesley Snipes was once the definition of cool in Hollywood. During the 1990s, he built a reputation as both a skilled dramatic actor and a powerhouse action star. From New Jack City to White Men Can't Jump, he showed incredible range, but it was his role as Blade, the half-vampire superhero, that cemented his status as a legend. Long before Marvel dominated theaters, Wesley proved comic book films could be gritty, stylish, and massively successful. Yet behind the scenes, things were unraveling. Reports surfaced that he was difficult to work with, especially during the production of Blade: Trinity. Cast members and the director claimed he clashed with them repeatedly, building a reputation that Hollywood executives don't easily forget. Then came his biggest downfall: tax evasion. Snipes failed to file federal income taxes for several years, and in 2008, he was convicted. The sentence was 3 years in federal prison, of which he served more than 2. By the time he was released in 2013, the momentum of his career had slowed to a crawl. Even after prison, Hollywood didn't fully embrace him again, though he landed roles in projects like The Expendables 3 and Coming 2. America. These were supporting parts, not the star-making roles he once commanded. The combination of legal trouble, financial issues, and stories of on-set tension made studios wary of trusting him with big franchises again. Still, Snipes hasn't completely disappeared. He continues to work steadily, reminding audiences of his talent. But the superstar who once carried blockbuster films is now largely confined to smaller projects, his peak years long behind him. 7. Cuba Gooding Jr.
Those refusing to leave die, but those who are willing to pack up and go and move on, it's scary, but it's survival. And that's what Hollywood is doing right now. We're in a major...
Cuba Gooding Jr. once seemed destined for greatness. His unforgettable performance in Jerry Maguire earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, and his "Show Me the Money" moment became an instant cultural classic. With that kind of momentum, most assumed he'd climb straight to the top tier of Hollywood stardom, but his career didn't unfold the way people expected. After his Oscar win, Cuba took on a string of films that failed to resonate with audiences or critics. He later admitted that he turned down opportunities with acclaimed directors, decisions that stalled his upward trajectory. Instead of building on his success, he became associated with projects that didn't showcase his full talent. Then came the controversies that further tarnished his image. In 2019, more than 20 women accused him of misconduct. The allegations ranged from unwanted touching to serious claims that damaged his reputation beyond repair. He was arrested and faced charges in New York, ultimately pleading guilty to a lesser offense. As part of the deal, the conviction was downgraded after he completed court requirements, but the headlines had already taken their toll. He also faced civil lawsuits, including one where a woman accused him of assault before the case was quietly settled. Even though he avoided long-term legal punishment, the damage to his brand was irreversible. By 2024, Cuba began appearing in smaller films and independent projects, trying to rebuild what was lost. He's spoken about wanting another chance, but Hollywood's trust doesn't return easily. For many, he'll always be the actor who went from Oscar glory to scandal-driven downfall. 8. Gary Dourdan.
Up and they tell me that they cried when I died and things like that, which is great to hear. When you're an actor, you want to hear that you affected someone in some way, or you got a reaction or emotion out of someone. Then you did.
Gary Dourdan once had the kind of role most actors dream of. As Warwick Brown on CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, he became a fan favorite and a central part of the show's success. His charm, screen presence, and undeniable talent earned him awards and recognition, and it looked like his career was only getting started. But when his time on CSI ended after 8 seasons, things began to take a darker turn. Almost immediately, headlines about Dourdan's personal life overshadowed his acting. In 2008, he was arrested for drug possession. Although charges were later reduced or dropped, the arrest hurt his clean image. Not long after, in 2011, he faced another arrest for drugs and was also charged with felony battery following a violent altercation with his girlfriend. Reports claimed he broke her nose, and he eventually received 5 years of probation. On top of the legal problems, financial troubles soon followed. In 2012, he filed for bankruptcy, saying he couldn't keep up with his debts. For an actor once part of one of television's most successful franchises, the news shocked fans and the industry alike. Though his exit from CSI wasn't directly tied to his controversies, his contract had simply ended. His troubles afterward made casting directors hesitant. Hollywood is quick to distance itself from unstable headlines, and Gary's string of issues made him a risky choice. In recent years, he's appeared in small independent films and occasional TV projects. He's also spoken about overcoming his struggles and trying to move forward. But the A-list promise he once had has largely faded, leaving him on the outside of mainstream Hollywood. 9. Isaiah Washington.
Without having a conversation. So once I read him the Riot Act, it said that you can't make me do what you tell me to do. That was the moment I became difficult in Hollywood.
Isaiah Washington was riding high as Dr. Preston Burke on Grey's Anatomy, one of television's biggest hits in the mid-2000s. His character was a major part of the show, and his talent earned him both fans and respect. But in 2007, everything came crashing down after a scandal that Hollywood never forgot. It all began with a heated on-set argument between Washington and co-star Patrick Dempsey. During the altercation, Washington used a homophobic slur, which many believed was aimed at fellow cast member T.R. Knight, who later came out as gay. The controversy only grew worse when Washington repeated the same word backstage at the Golden Globes while trying to deny he ever used it. The attempt to clear his name instead fueled the outrage. Although he issued public apologies, the damage had already been done. ABC decided not to renew his contract, and just like that, his role on Grey's Anatomy was over. For Washington, the fallout was devastating. He later revealed that he couldn't afford an agent or publicist and struggled to book roles. Hollywood quickly turned its back on him. While his talent was never questioned, his name had become synonymous with controversy, making producers reluctant to cast him. In 2014, Grey's Anatomy briefly brought him back for one episode, and from 2014 to 2018, he found steady work on the CW series The 100. Still, those roles never matched the prestige he once held. Isaiah Washington's story is a reminder of how quickly Hollywood can close doors. One mistake magnified by the spotlight was enough to turn a rising star into an industry outcast. 10. Tisha Campbell.
I also knew somebody who was interviewing to be the casting director, and that person said, yeah, I mentioned your name. And he said, I love Tisha so much. She is family. This is Damon. I love Tisha so much. She's family, but I just don't see myself playing opposite of Gina for the
Tisha Campbell is a familiar face to anyone who grew up watching 1990s television. She brought unforgettable charm and comedic timing to her role as Gina Waters on Martin, one of the most iconic sitcoms of its era. Later, she proved her staying power with another fan favorite, playing Jay on My Wife and Kids. For years, she was a household name and a steady presence on screen. But once those hit shows ended, Tisha's time in the Hollywood spotlight began to fade. While she never stopped working, her roles shifted toward guest appearances and smaller projects. She popped up in shows like Everybody Hates Chris, Empire, Dr. Ken, and Outmatched. More recently, she's continued to showcase her comedic chops in Uncoupled and Act Your Age. Though still active, these roles haven't carried the same cultural impact as her earlier successes. Part of the issue lies in how Hollywood treats aging actresses, especially Black women. Campbell has spoken openly about the challenges of staying relevant in an industry obsessed with youth and trends. Many believe ageism, combined with shifting industry priorities, contributed to her gradual move out of leading roles. Still, Tisha Campbell's resilience is undeniable. She has been in entertainment since childhood. Over 4 decades of consistent work is no small feat. Beyond acting, she shared personal struggles, including her divorce and financial hardships, with honesty that has inspired fans. Though she's no longer the sitcom queen dominating prime time, she remains a respected figure who continues to push forward. For Tisha Campbell, longevity itself is proof of her talent and determination. 11. Larenz Tate.
Undervalued. And, you know, I see that there's in mainstream Hollywood, if you will, you could see actors from the 80s and the 90s, and you hadn't seen them in 10, 15, 20 years.
Larenz Tate is one of those actors who always delivered powerful performances, yet somehow never reached the same superstar level as many of his peers. In the 1990s, he was everywhere, starring in classics like Menace to Society, Dead Presidents, and the romantic favorite Love Jones. With his charm, intensity, and undeniable talent, Tate seemed destined to become one of Hollywood's leading men. But as time passed, the momentum slowed. Unlike some of his co-stars, Tate didn't consistently land the big movie roles people expected. It wasn't because of a lack of ability he's proven himself time and again, but because Hollywood often leaned into typecasting. Many Black actors were pushed into repetitive roles, and Tate wasn't interested in simply recycling characters. Instead, he became more selective, focusing on projects that highlighted authentic Black stories and meaningful representation. That choice, while admirable, limited his mainstream exposure. Still, Tate found steady work on television. He gained attention for his role in Rescue Me, and later reminded everyone of his star power with a standout turn as Councilman Rashad Tate on the hit series Power. His performance was so popular that he became a recurring figure in the franchise, proving he still commands the screen. For Tate, it's less about fading away and more about carving his own path. He may not headline blockbuster films like he once seemed poised to, but he's built a career based on substance rather than chasing trends. Fans continue to celebrate him as one of the most underrated actors of his generation. 12. Keke Palmer.
I have to start saying no when things don't feel right.
But
now,
why did you just leave?
Because I was nervous, honestly, you guys. Think about your first time that you were in a situation where someone challenged you sexually. That is not, you don't know how to act.
Keke Palmer has been in the spotlight for most of her life, and she's done nearly everything: acting, singing, hosting, even producing her own content. She first stole hearts in Akeelah and the Bee, proving she was more than just another child star. From there, she built an impressive resume, with roles in projects like Hustlers, Jordan Peele's Nope, and even animated hits such as Lightyear and Ice Age. But despite her success, Keke has been very open about the challenges she's faced in Hollywood. In 2022, when social media users compared her career to Zendaya's, she spoke up. Keke reminded the world of her unique accomplishments, like being the first Black woman to star in her own Nickelodeon series, and the first Black actress to play Cinderella on Broadway. Her point was clear. She's incomparable, and colorism plays a big role in how Black talent is often treated and overlooked. Throughout her career, Keke has been vocal about the stereotypes and limitations placed on Black women in the industry. She's shared how difficult it was Growing up in the business, constantly being typecast and underestimated, instead of letting that hold her back, she carved her own lane. She became the youngest talk show host in TV history, created her own online platform called Key TV Network, and has even earned multiple Emmy Awards. Beyond acting, she's also used her voice to inspire a generation of fans who see her as proof that talent and authenticity can break barriers. Keke Palmer isn't fading. She's thriving by building her own empire on her own terms. 13. Darius McCrary.
Whether people understand it or realize it or not, I've said this before, we've all been inappropriately touched in Hollywood. Period. That's what it is. We've all, at some point or another, been inappropriately touched in Hollywood, whether you realize it or not.
Darius McCrary will always be remembered as Eddie Winslow, the cool, wisecracking older brother from the family sitcom Family Matters. For nearly a decade, he was part of a show that defined 1990s television. Fans expected that once the series ended, he'd seamlessly move into bigger Hollywood roles, but the reality turned out much different. After Family Matters, Darius kept acting, but the projects were far from the mainstream spotlight. He appeared in smaller films, straight-to-video releases, and occasional TV guest spots. One of his standout gigs was voicing Jazz in the 2007 Transformers movie, which many thought would reignite his career. Unfortunately, it didn't open the doors to lasting opportunities in larger productions. Part of the problem was typecasting. To many viewers, McCrary would always be Eddie Winslow, and Hollywood didn't offer him the kind of roles that could redefine his image. Instead of growing into versatile characters, he found himself limited, stuck in the shadow of his most famous role. Adding to the challenges, McCrary's personal life made headlines. He was arrested more than once over unpaid child support, and those stories often overshadowed his professional work. In Hollywood, where reputation is everything, the negative press didn't help. Still, Darius hasn't given up. He's landed roles in shows like American Soul on BET and Monogamy on the UMC streaming platform. Beyond acting, he started developing projects through his own production company, showing he's determined to control his narrative. Though he hasn't reclaimed the spotlight he once had, Darius McCrary is still fighting to carve out his place in the industry. 14. Tyrese Gibson.
There's so much trash out here. There's so many things that's going on that people are deciding to support. And when money is made, more of those movies will be made.
Tyrese Gibson built his career on both music and film, quickly becoming a household name. His smooth voice launched him as an R&B star, but it was his charisma on screen that solidified his Hollywood presence. He's best known as Roman Pierce in the Fast and Furious franchise, where his humor and energy made him a fan favorite. On paper, Tyrese seemed untouchable, but behind the blockbuster success, his personal struggles and public outbursts have complicated his career. One of the biggest controversies came during his feud with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Tyrese publicly blasted Johnson for taking a spin-off movie, claiming it disrupted the schedule for the main franchise. The feud played out online, where Tyrese vented in a series of emotional posts that raised eyebrows. For fans, it was dramatic. For Hollywood, it signaled potential instability. Tyrese also made headlines for personal matters. His highly publicized custody battle for his daughter led to a viral video where he cried on camera, pleading, "What more do you want from me?" While some sympathized, others mocked the moment, turning it into a meme. Add in legal troubles over child support and financial disputes, and Tyrese's image took a hit. Despite the drama, he's far from finished. He returned for Fast X in 2023 and is already set for Fast and Furious 11. Outside the franchise, he continues to make music and has expressed interest in more serious acting roles. Tyrese Gibson remains talented and bankable, but Hollywood's perception of him has shifted. The question is whether he can keep his personal life from overshadowing his professional one. 15. Jussie Smollett.
And this is just a friendly fight. I will never be the man that this did not happen to. I am forever changed. And I don't subscribe to the idea that everything happens for a reason, but I do subscribe to the idea that we have the right and the responsibility to make something meaningful out of the things that happen to us, good and bad.
Jussie Smollett was once at the center of one of television's hottest shows. As Jamal Lyon on Empire, he showcased not only strong acting, but also impressive musical talent, quickly becoming a fan favorite. For a while, It looked like Smollett had secured his place in Hollywood with a bright future ahead. But in 2019, everything changed in a way that few could have predicted. Smollett reported that he was the victim of a brutal hate crime in Chicago, claiming 2 men attacked him while yelling racist and homophobic slurs. Initially, the story drew an outpouring of sympathy and support from fans, colleagues, and public figures. But soon after, police investigations revealed a shocking twist. Authorities alleged that Smollett had staged the entire incident, even hiring 2 acquaintances to carry out the fake attack. The fallout was immediate. He was charged with filing a false police report, and while the first round of charges was dropped, a special prosecutor later brought them back. In 2021, Smollett was convicted on multiple felony counts and sentenced to jail time, probation, and fines. Though he maintained his innocence, the scandal destroyed his credibility. In 2024, the Illinois Supreme Court overturned his conviction, stating the legal process was mishandled. Still, the ruling didn't declare him innocent. It simply acknowledged procedural flaws. By then, the damage was already done. Empire had written his character out, and Hollywood studios distanced themselves. Smollett has since turned to directing and smaller independent projects, but the mainstream industry has yet to welcome him back. His career, once filled with promise, remains overshadowed by scandal.